delighted to be presenting today and giving the opportunity. So I'm Cheryl Leong from the Growth Hub and in the business and outsourcing consultant in the group. So I'm going to be presenting about how virtual champions can help your business's growth and also create more personal freedom. Some fun facts about me. I am a wife and mum of 2 little rugrats. I was born in Malaysia. I moved to Singapore when I was about 4 and to Australia when I was about 13. So I've been here for quite a while. And although Malaysian food and Singaporean food is still very much in my blood, we love being in Australia. I studied business and law, and obviously the natural progression from that was to start a window cleaning business. Much to my parents' despair. However, the reason for that was because I wanted to be in the property space. I wanted to have my own business. And at the time when I was in Brisbane, there was a property boom, and the opportunity there was to be able to do the first cleans of new builds. And so here I was. I'm obviously very tall, so very tall windows. I would go in with my little step ladder and try to be a tradie. Unfortunately, I'm not really tradie material, as the tradies can see. However, it was a great experience in terms of starting up a business and having, thinking about branding, accounts and all of that. Again, eventually sold that to my business partner because I moved to Sydney. I've been in a whole lot of different businesses. Also, when I had my daughter, I still wanted to be in business. I said, I'm going to teach other mums how to exercise with their babies. And that's what a candy trainer is, because she wouldn't sleep. And so I would put her in my little carrier all day, but I was like, I need to do something. And so I'm like, I'm going to teach other women how to squat with their babies. And so we did that, and that was probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life. That obviously wasn't for profit making, because it wasn't very profitable, but it was incredibly soul-fulfilling and also a personal growth, because I wanted to be better at presenting, and I went, I'm going to have to be like Jane Fonda and give instructions to people to go left, to the left, and to the right. So that was a great experience. I'm a little bit of a hippie. Anna and I talk often about spirituality. I have singing bowls and crystals in my room. I now have a wealth corner, so thank you very much. I think it's working. I have to burn my sage every day. I love property and building communities. That's very much, back in Singapore, we used to live in communities, condominiums, where people will all come together. And that's always been ingrained in me, that I love connecting people and building those communities. And my mission really in life is a strong need and want to impact people, and through that, through businesses as well. Because businesses allow you to be creative and entrepreneur and really step into what we're going to be talking about. And so the story of the Growth Hub, very, very briefly. As I mentioned, I grew up in Singapore, and in Singapore, it's not uncommon that as a family you have helpers and maids in your house. And when I was quite young, we used to have quite a few maids, and they were from the Philippines. And I get to know them quite well, because they were like big sisters to me. What I noticed as well, and this was way before you could have internet and email or even phone calls, they would have photos of their children and their family on their walls. And it would really break my heart that they had to leave their homes to be able to support their families. I know a particular helper that's been in our wider family for close to 35 years. And she's had her children and her grandchildren, but she's been living in Singapore for all her life. And that's to support her family. And I knew from a very early age that it didn't sit well for me, and I made it sort of a mission that I would change that. And so even talking about it makes me emotional, because now I have the opportunity to provide jobs to people in the Philippines, allow them to work from home around their families, that they don't have to leave their families. And it doesn't matter if it's in the Philippines or anywhere else, businesses allow you to be global. And that's why I love that we, as much as COVID was a lot of a challenge, it was also a blessing in disguise for a lot of people, because we could move our businesses virtually. And so our story is really about transforming businesses and people so that we can earn more, achieve more, impact greatly to contribute to making a difference in the lives of others. So what we're going to talk about today is I want to talk about starting with the end in mind and talk about some numbers here. So why do we have to start with the end in mind of your business? Because we have to look at when we start our business, it's actually looking at what we want to build in our ideal future. And have a think about what you want it to look like. At the end of the day, we want freedom and choices. I'd love for a few people to share with us why you went into business and what is it that your real ideal life would like to be. What does that look like? What does business allow you to do?
Flexibility.
Flexibility.
If you're lucky enough, do what you love and what you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Support your family's success and activities.
Choose your own hours and not have a boss and over your shoulder.
Yes.
Actually, being an integral part of your community and leaving a big impact legacy.
I love that. I love that. And it's all about, freedom and choices. There are other things, obviously if you want the nice cars and houses, that's absolutely fine. It's also being able to, we've got volunteers. How many people want to be able to, do more volunteer, more charity work? We all do, And we all want to be able to have those holidays if we want to, be able to travel. But even the simple things, and not to say, like, I've got young children, they can sick the last 2 days. But to be able to stay home, to be with them, that's a huge choice, and that's a lot of freedom that's in there. And so we look at business, and we need to look as business owners as to how does our business need to be structured to allow us to create this ideal future. So we all go into business and go, okay, we're going to create this idea, but we've got to also remember, if we've got a particular end in mind, what do we need to do from here to be able to get to this point? And so I'd love you to ask yourself these questions. What role do I need to play in my business? Can I step away? This one's going to be a big one. Can I step away from my business and still have it generate revenue? Does my team, and if I have a team, does my team know what to do without me? And how many hours do I want to work in or on my business? Again, as business owners, we're so ingrained to feel that we need to be hustling and working 12, 14 hours a day. But is that the most productive and effective thing for our business to grow? Probably not. And so the question is, how do we assess and how do we actually start to step back and create a craft of business and structure to allow us to really create the life of our dreams? So I'm going to talk numbers here, and Carol, anyone that's numbers person, if anything looks a little bit off, it's good. You get the drift. What I'm trying to achieve here is for you to have a think about your billable hours, right? And lawyers speak, as Anne would know, you have billable hours that you say, this is my per hour rate. And so some of you may have hourly rates and some of you don't, but this is, for the purpose of this exercise, imagine what your hourly rate is. So you might work a 40-hour week, you may do more, maybe less. You might do about 20 hours of billable hours, but the other 20 hours may be things that you're just working in the business, administrative sort of things. And say, for example, your billable hourly rate is about $100 an hour. Just use very simple numbers for my own purposes, because maths is not my strong one. But how much is your time worth? So if you calculate your average weekly outcome, your income, say it's $2,000, and how many hours you work in a week? So about 40 hours. If you calculate your hourly rate, it's actually about 50 hours, but you're billing at $100 an hour. So you look at that and you're going, my actual effective hourly rate's only half of what I'm billing. So, but how do I increase my revenue without increasing the number of hours in my business? So there are a few steps here that I've addressed, which You can focus on tasks only you can do, because if you're billing the big dollars, you should be doing a lot more of that. Right? You can increase your prices, which, that's also another strategy, 10% of an increase that provides a big impact in your business. You can build on value versus time. Be more efficient, automate your processes. Have a look to see the things that you're spending time on administratively through your marketing and things like that. How can you automate? And automation doesn't necessarily mean technology all the time. That can mean people as well. Leverage your time and your skills. Right? If you've got particular skill and time, if you can train other people to do it, that's leveraging your time and your skills. And delegate. And this is the part that we're going to be focusing on. Quite a bit is about delegation. What is delegation? It's about letting go. Again, as business owners, we're so used to doing everything, especially when we're starting, we're doing it all, we're hustling away. But to move to that ideal business state, we've got to let go of being the doer and being a leader. We've got to be able to lead, not just yourselves, but others. And why do we need to do that? And what do we need to delegate? We do a lot of unpaid and lesser value work. Who can think of the things that they do in their business that they sort of go, one, I really don't like doing it, or two, I really should be doing it. Can someone think of some ideas of things that they do?
Filing.
Filing.
Emails.
Emails.
Emails. Emails, yes. Invoicing. Yeah, anyone else? What other?
Organising appointments when people change your appointments is short so much time.
That takes up so much time, and you might just think that's 5-10 minutes, but it's then your focus that's being taken away from a higher value task, right? And we talk about this death by 1,000 cuts. You can do 20 or 30 of these little 2-5-minute tasks, but really it amounts to about 4 hours of you being unproductive because your focus is taken away. So what are the things that you can delegate, right? Administrative tasks, responding to emails, organizing appointments, travel, marketing, even sort of, we do a lot of unpaid, education. You're paying someone for the education, but you're not getting paid at that time. But what you need to look at how you can still get paid for that time. So how many hours in the week? Have a bit of a reflection in your week. Are you spending on unpaid or lower value tasks? Is it 10, 15, 20 hours? That could potentially be paid time that you could be earning something. So what can we do to effectively increase that effective hourly rate that we discussed before? Increasing your revenue means increasing your effective hourly rate. So I've put a little table together. Again, very, very simple. If you were able to, is this thing point?
I think it does.
I
don't think it will.
No, that's all right. So I've got a little before and after. If your billable hours that we talked about before, 20 hours, that means there's 20 hours of time that you could actually bill someone. Increase to 30. You've got revenue that's another $1,000. So it all comes down to the numbers. How can I be able to bill more? And this is where we talk about virtual champions and outsourcing. Because in a business, we've got to look at our numbers, but also look at what are the things that we can do to be able to give us more traction in business. And the great thing with virtual champions and outsourcing is that when we look at the numbers, there is a huge, huge cost savings. We've got, there's some little small numbers here, but they do say, so hiring locally, we've got some rough numbers here, about $70,000 for an executive assistant. Virtual champions could cost you about $25,000 to $30,000, which is a huge savings and about $45,000 in the business. Who wouldn't mind saving $45,000 in the business? A marketing assistant, $80,000, and these are sort of mid-range to probably the lower range in Australia. A virtual champion could cost about $35,000. Client success officers, those of you who are struggling with keeping on top of where your clients are at and all of that, could be around $80,000. Again, saving you about $45,000. When you look at those cost savings, you go, that's fantastic. But the truth is, are we taking jobs away from Australians? And I get asked that very, very often, right? Who's thought of that before? Right. The truth is no. You know why? Because most businesses can't even afford to hire locally. And what does that mean? As a small business owner, if you're continuing to do things yourself, you are not getting traction in your business. You cannot bring on more clients. So really, you do need to let go. But we can't afford to hire locally. And the current labor shortages, who's been trying to employ people locally as well for a while and they're just struggling? It is hard, right? Virtual champions and being able to outsource actually allows you to grow, but then also increase your revenue and profitability so that you can then allocate that profitability and revenue to people locally who have specialized, more expensive skill set. The hybrid work model is very, very possible in business. It's not that if I'm hiring overseas, I'm taking jobs away. You are actually allowing yourself to hire both locally and internationally. We are a global, business world these days. So I've drawn a little bit of a work, an example org structure. How do you grow into your future org structure and embrace a hybrid workforce? See, I've given a little bit of what are these called? Legend. You're a legend. Legend. So I've highlighted some examples where you've got you up here. You might have an EA who's a virtual champion. But your GM in your business, your future business, might be someone local. And then you've got more specialized skills, which are management skills. They can be local, but they can be supported by virtual champions and the virtual assistants. So you can see here, this allows a business to maybe start off here and get up to this point where their whole local team are being run by a global team. And that is really what helps power these small businesses forward. So what tasks can virtual champions do? Really important is, I often say, is to get the right people to do the right sort of tasks. And as much as and I got a text this morning to say, Cheryl, do you have a virtual assistant to do everything? Canva, marketing, email, you need to be able to bucket them, because at the end of the day, we all individually have our own skills and strengths. Importantly, you have someone who's great at administration, who's really data-driven, who's really detailed. May not be fantastic at marketing, because the marketing person's a different personality. They're creative, they're outgoing. So virtual assistants can help with admin, they can help with call handling, appointment setting, research, marketing. Really anything in your business that can be done virtually, you can have a virtual champion help you with. So what's the impact? Here's Steve's story. Steve is a buyer's agent. And he first came to me, he was a solopreneur, building his buyer's agency all by himself. But he also had a full-time business, a full-time job. So he said, Cheryl, I need to be able to build this buyer's agency, but I also have this full-time job. I'm not sure how I can do it. So he brought on board a full-time property assistant, Danica. And you can see here, the biggest win for me working with TGH is getting my time back. It made me look at my business as well. So I've looked at my business and analyzed how can I improve what I'm doing. Steve spent a lot of time in systemizing his business to a point where Danica was doing 80% of all his operational tasks. So he was able to build his buyer's agency but also having a full-time job. So the only things that he was involved with was the negotiation and doing the final assessments of properties. He can choose to work when he wants, so I can get on top of the top 3 priorities for the day, rather than doing all the other things and trying to solve other problems. And also gives him the ability to, and the flexibility to free up his weekend for his 2 boys, because he used to work weekends all the time. But now he can basically focus on that and be present when he's with his family. So that's been a big win, and these are stories that we hear all the time with the business owners that we work with about, and it's so much more around freeing up time and capacity. So who do we work with? We do very much specialize in that property space and service-based businesses. So buyers agents, property investment advisors, property educators, developers, and service-based business. So next time someone says to you, I'm so busy, I'm so flat out, I just don't have any time in my day, I feel overwhelmed and stuck, or I spend so much time on all those itty-bitty little tasks when I really just want to be focusing on this, save and share our webinar. So I've got a webinar, this is on YouTube, and if you've got your little phone, I know when you tell me what to use our phone, you can scan the QR code. It takes you to a webinar around how to implement systems, strategies, and superstars in your property business, or any business, to grow exponentially. Feel free to watch that. It's about 45 minutes to an hour, and it talks you through what are the things that you need to consider in your business and to break it down to really build it up to that future business and that future business structure. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you.
And wasn't that insightful and educational? And yeah, I have it's triggered some ideas for my business. So thank you so much. I'm sure everybody else is. And there's people in this room that are customers, Cheryl. I know Bruce uses her services.
Yes, okay.
Would you like to?
I would be happy to jump in early before the IHAVs and give a testimony of Cheryl. Cheryl has literally changed my business life. You know, in the work that I do, I spend a lot of time helping people work out what they want for their business, and I thought I'd figured it out. And the process that Cheryl had completely transformed my understanding of what my business could be.
There you go.
Which was quite shocking actually to me, a little bit confronting and also a bit shocking. But my champion, Ed's, is awesome. She and the structure that they have for supporting the champions is absolutely fantastic. It's unique. Each champion belongs to a little group, and that group's led by a champion's hero. I mean, and some of those, you listen to those names and you might think, oh, that sounds a bit dinky. In Cheryl's business, no, but in Cheryl's business, they truly live to those roles.
Yes.
I feel that Ed's is my champion, and I know that she feels that she has a hero in Rosette. And you know, it's a truly amazing thing, and you know, as I say, it's completely transformed my business life. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you.